So, if your experiment is successfully selected for an ESA Parabolic Flight Campaign, then we'll send you an invitation to prepare for about 6 months or so, and then you will come here to Novespace in Bordeaux in France. The campaigns take about 2 weeks. After 6 months or up to a year of preparation, you come here. 1 week we spend getting all the experiments ready. The second week we spend flying. Let me give you a tour of the facilities. So inside the Novespace facilities are exactly what we need. They've been doing this for decades now. They're perfectly tuned to preparing for scientific campaigns. We have a reception area taking care of all of the admin, looking after the flight suits for you. And then this is a workshop area. One of the main things we need is space. Each experiment, you're used to having your big laboratories at home with all of your equipment. So here we keep area, an alcove sectioned off for each of the experiments, so your hardware can arrive in the shipping containers, be unpacked, be tested and verified to make sure nothing was damaged during shipment, be checked by Novespace, then you'll be allowed to turn it on. Once you've completed all of the safety verifications on the ground, we'll be able to take you to load. If necessary, we have other facilities here, such as a mechanical workshop, all of the tools you might need, all of the machining you might need in case of any problems, but we hope not. Of course, you should have had all of that done at home. Nice large doors with forklift trucks to take us out to the aircraft to be loaded on board. This is the kind of area that we spend the first week in with the hardware. We also have some laboratories and workspace I can show you. So for biological experiments, life science experiments, we have a laboratory environment, all the equipment you might expect, refrigerators, freezers, laminar flow benches, fume hoods, chemical storage, gas bottle storage, all of the standard laboratory equipment you may expect that you need. Of course, beforehand, if you are not sure what is here, we can check with Novespace. They will tell you if they've got it or find something extra, or you can bring your hardware with you, of course. But the facilities are here at your disposal. So, of course, we also need some space to meet, to do our normal everyday work. So we have a number of offices which we can use for meetings, for emails. The teams that need inclusion visits for their test subjects can use these. This open space we use for debriefings after the flight. We also bring food and eat here, enjoy our lunch together here. Novespace are also going to extend these facilities soon, adding another floor above, more office space, more meeting rooms, more space for everyday eating and drinking activities, for example. So really we have everything here on site that we need to maintain a campaign for a couple of weeks. We have maybe up to 60, 70, 80 people here at a time. It's a wonderful community, everybody working hard to try to achieve the optimum scientific technological success of the flights. So I hope this little tour of the facilities has been useful. Let's go to the plane and I'll show you what we have on board there. So because we're based at an airport, of course, we need to have security checks to make sure that everything is safe, because these facilities are ground side, but the gate just there going to the aircraft takes us airside. We need to be able to go back and forth in order to do our work. So Bordeaux Airport very kindly provide security to check our access badges, our identification. We need to get clearance at least 6 weeks in advance before you come to a campaign, and then you're simply allowed to go between groundside and airside whenever you need to. So, giving you a bit of a show of the facilities on the ground, but I wanted to show you what happens on the aircraft as well. So we've got a seated area, just like normal as any aircraft, for taxi, takeoff, landing. Of course, we need the seats, we need the normal safety equipment. One bit of safety equipment that you might not have seen before, we also use a smoke hood on board because there's increased risk of electrical fire, toxic chemicals, this kind of thing. So don't be surprised when you see that. There's space for 40 participants shared between all of the experiments. So we are going to ask you to keep the number of seats that you need for your experiment to a minimum. So think about your operational procedures, think about how many people you really need, how many test subjects you can realistically get through on a flight if you're in a life science experiment, because we really have to make sure we optimize the seats for the best return for everybody. So let's move into the experiment area proper. So this part at the moment is very open because of the activity we have on the flight right now. We're going to have astronauts training here, so they need lots of space to fly around. But it lets me show you the facilities in general. So we have the padded floor, walls, and ceiling in case we need, and handrails, etc., also all padded. So it's very difficult to hurt yourself if you're falling in 2G. But generally speaking, you never should be falling at the end of the parabola because we have these red straps on the ground everywhere. And these straps are to secure yourself. So experimenters, during the parabola, they sit with a leg or a foot at least under these straps so they can't float above the experiments, because when 2G came on, they could fall, hurt themselves, hurt each other, injure the experiments. So in general, in this area, we ask everyone to be secured for every parabola, usually right next to your experiment. We do have one small free-floating area, even though we're all here to work, of course. Sometimes you have a test subject that's finished their job or some particular operator that's not needed for a parabola. So we have this space. If someone does have some time off, they can go in here. This is the only place on the aircraft that you can free float. It's not the main point, but of course we like to provide it if people can use it. Okay, great. Then there's different types of experiments. So life science experiments here, this is a typical setup we would have if you're going to have people laying down, wearing VR headsets, that kind of thing. They normally would then have straps for operators to control their position next to them, but they don't need computers. It's not a complicated kind of experiment. But then for others, we have fairly standardized racks like this. If you check the documentation that's provided on the application website, you'll see that there's definition of these racks. They're not provided for you, it's just advisory structure. And if you follow that advice, then you don't need to do any structural qualification, because each size of rack is already pre-qualified up to a certain mechanical load. So it makes it much easier for you to go with this kind of thing. There are electrical power supplies throughout the aircraft. So this is the typical kind of electrical power supply you get. So this part is provided by Novespace for you to attach to your experiment or have next to your experiment. Everything after that is your responsibility. So the hardware that you've got from your lab, your laptops, etc. The foam is all added for safety to make sure no one falls on top of it. That's the kind of stuff we can do here on site. Everything else, we'd like you to have your racks pre-configured at home, make sure you've tested, make sure they do everything that they're meant to do. Other safety concerns, the other type of rack we can have is a Zarges box. This is also very, very standard. If you have high pressure or toxic chemicals or high temperature, then it's quite helpful to have one of these boxes as a layer of containment. If you have anything that can leak, fluids, particles, then often Novespace will ask you for 2 levels of containment. A Zarges box like this can provide one of those levels. Another facility that we're not actually using on this campaign at the moment, we have a vent line. So if you need to get rid of some exhaust gases, some toxic gases, whatever, a vent line can do that so that we can exclude them from the cabin, so we keep everyone safe and healthy. The information that you get on board, there's speakers, so you hear the tannoy announcements of what's going to happen, when the parabolas are going to stop and start, what position you are in the parabolas. And there's a screen at the front that shows you the number of the next parabola, so you can keep track of where you are in the flight. So typically that's how we work, that's how we like to set up, that's what you can expect when you come on a campaign. You should design with these kind of features in mind, and we will of course help you to do that after your application is successful. We spend 6 months working between you and Novespace to develop these safe integrated flight models, checking all of the safety hazards and verifications to make sure that you're able to come on board. So you don't have to have it all dialed in immediately from the point of your proposal. We will work on it together once you've been selected, but this is what you have to have in mind for the general overview and general setup.